Hello, and Happy New Year. I hope things are going well for you. I've been really enjoying this season of the year with the journaling community, seeing all of your 2026 setups. It's a very inspiring time. I know I have a tendency to be one of those people who's like, you know what would fix my entire life this year is if I have a brand new notebook. So as I am moving into my new notebooks, I am wrapping up my 2025 journal, or rather second half of 2025 journal, because this is the Hobonichi Cousin Avec. So it begins in July and then continues through the end of the year. So I am wrapping this up so that I can officially move out and move into my new journals. So I wanted to take some time today to flip through the last couple of months in my journal and just kind of give an overview of how Hobonichi has treated me. You know, was it worth it to get this big old book and spend every day toiling to fill it in? I think it varies from person to person and what your goals are for the book. So I'll kind of talk through how my final thoughts on using this book for 2025. So I'll go ahead and begin with showing you my calendar pages. So I've got my calendar appointments, and then every couple of days I will put in some sort of little piece of ephemera that represents the day, whether it's, a postage stamp from something that came in the mail, clipping from my coffee order, from my fruits and vegetable stickers, stuff like that, tags. And then we also have December. Now I'm a lot happier with my December. I feel like I got more of a color scheme going on. We've got coffee order stickers, postage stamps, thank you notes that came from an Etsy order, clippings from envelopes, and I don't even remember what this is from. This is from some packaging. Tags, barcodes, stickers from packaging, lots of just fun little bits. Which brings us to January, which I had put my January appointments in just for planning purposes, but I really haven't put any ephemera in here. I might still go back and put in some stickers just to fill in this page. I also might not. That's totally fine. Mostly I don't know. I like having all of my pages filled and I don't want to leave anything blank, but it's okay. I'm trying to tell myself that it's okay. I don't need to fill in everything. We are all good, which then brings us to weekly pages, which begin, I suppose they begin right here. And I finished out the year the way I had been going, just with to-do lists on every day or various priorities, various schedule items, and filling that in too with some little related stickers. We've got even more vegetable stickers, price tags, clippings from envelopes, from the mail that I've gotten. This week is a lot more muted, I think because it was a very snowy week and it was just kind of gloomy out, and I had to use this little piglet that's like shivering in the snow. He's so cute. And then just like very sweater cutouts and stuff, and it just kind of ended up very blue and green. I was pretty happy with this week. I think after that last week of like grays and blues, I needed some pops of color. Just got some bright colors on that page. I love the colors on this page. I don't usually go into the week with any sort of color scheme just because this is like where my planning happens. So I'm focused on the words, but then, I was working on getting my passport renewed this day, so I stuck that in, and I was like, ooh, the navy blue will look good with this, but then the red in here, let's add some red. So that's kind of how these pages get built, is I'll start with one or two things, and then kind of bounce all of the other colors off of the pieces that I start with. I feel like that happened a decent bit on this page too, where I started with like, got some red snowflakes, green sweater, and then just kind of filling in the rest of it with colors that match those first few bits of ephemera. I've got more to-do lists. I've got a project list here, which I'm not as good at checking as I wish I was, but just trying to list out some things that, you know, when I'm having a lazy Sunday, what do I want to work on? Instead of sitting there scrolling or watching YouTube all evening, I can look at this and go, oh, you know, I do have a few books that I need to finish before I need to return them to the library. I have to catch up on my journal. I want to get better about checking my project lists, but that's what that's for. I like this vertical format, but just the size of this page it's a lot. I know it's like a time stamped, and I usually try and keep my to-do list kind of in the time frame of when I'll be doing the thing, so that if I have a scheduled item, I can put that kind of around the time that it's supposed to be happening, just so I can get a good visual of my day. But usually, I mean, after work hours, I'm not checking this very often, so it ends up being really empty at the bottom. We've got the week of Christmas, and because this was a week of a lot of travel and family time, I didn't have a lot of to-do list items. This was kind of just my week to hang out and enjoy the holidays. So a lot of this extra space kind of got filled up with additional ephemera, wrappers and tags from my Christmas presents, more post office stamps. I love, you'll see this all over the place. The post office has these special stamps for December, the rubber stamps that they stamp over the postage stamp while it's in transit. And I was cutting this little tree out of every single envelope that we got in the mail, just so I could stick them all in here. And then, yeah, these little snowflakes were from an envelope from a Christmas card. And then I'm pretty sure these little deer were from a return address on one of those letters too, if I remember correctly. So I do a lot of mixing of stickers from my stash and just whatever I can pull out of the garbage and stick in here as a little embellishment. And then this page, I had already moved into my Hobonichi weeks for 2026, so it's very sparse. Again, I think I might add in some things just so that there's not a completely blank page in between, but I am definitely focusing more on this year's notebooks rather than trying to deal with filling in duplicate pages, I suppose. So with that being the end of December, that brings us to our daily pages. Gotta go back to November. I've got my monthly cover page with Pooh and Piglet. They're so cute. I love them. And then right off the bat, you will see that I was in a bit of a busy season, so I have a lot of blank spots throughout this journal. And I am thinking that I would like to go back in and fill in some of this blank space. And then eventually I can film a full flip through of the journal with kind of the final state that it's going to be in when I archive it. But we'll see how much I fill in, because as much as I love the idea of the satisfaction of having this whole journal completely filled, it's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be a chore. So, you know what, I'll get done what I can get done, and any blank spaces are just evidence of what life was like at this point. We had some friends come to visit during these few days, so I have a lot to write about that. We played D&D, so I have my little fantasy stickers on here. We got some cinnamon rolls, so we cut that out of the packaging. And then our friends did have to head home, and our puppy was very sad about that. So I had glued in this rainy little dog illustration that I cut out from a magazine. And then I continued my pattern. I know these couple of days were a little bit wonky just because there was more stuff to write about, but I do continue my pattern of using this little kind of invisible column as my daily log, kind of writing just what happened that day, pretty much just the facts. And then I use the second column to just write about, whatever is on my mind at the time. So we had been talking a lot about D&D while everyone was here, so I wrote just a whole big brain dump on what makes a character that I really enjoy playing in D&D. And on this side, oh yes, we are in the process of trying to get a fence built, and it has been an adventure. So this is literally just me word vomiting about the whole fence situation and my minor frustrations with the process, but we're getting there. Couple more pages of just minimal journaling and minimal decoration that I just kind of threw in there. I cut this out from, the free hats that they give out at Krispy Kreme. That's what this is from. I cut that out, and it just perfectly matched with the green of the page, and then this cutout from a magazine that I had put in because it was starting to snow already at this point. So I put in the cute little skating girl. So I love how festive this page turned out. I've got another pretty sparse page. I don't know if you can see it on camera because I stamped out the title, Funny Stuff, and then I just have in pencil, sketched out different things that were funny that happened that day that I haven't journaled yet. So I need to go back in and add those before I forget what the funny things were. And then on this page, again, I had a really short daily log, not a lot happened, so I just kind of slapped a sticker for my stash in here. And then I did a bit of a brain dump of just all the things that I want to / need to get done sometime soon. I was like, I can't hold this in my head anymore. I'm just gonna dump it out on the page. This page, we had gotten really into the game Dispatch, which is about superheroes, among many other things, but the finale had just dropped, so that was just kind of what our evenings were all about during this time frame. So I had these little superhero stickers I put in, and then I kind of want to, since I don't have anything in particular to write about here, I kind of want to draw the dog from the game. Shout out Beef. Kind of want to draw Beef right here. We'll see if that's what I do. I had another short daily log here, so I thought, what would be fun is to mix up the arrangement like I always intended. So I used this little cutout from my coffee sleeve to divide the page. So I have another space down here. This space I used to kind of write out my Christmas wish list. I thought that would be fun to look back on someday. And then I have another space here that I can write about something else that is undetermined as of yet, but there's space there. And then I had done some extra journaling this day, so I just added in a little clipping of journaling. I love this page. I do need to fill in this, but all of this is just random little clippings. This is from an art print that I finally unpackaged and hung up. This is cut out from a can of refried beans. And I think it looks so fun. Just these everyday little bits of life. And I paired it with, since I read a lot this evening, I added in this little cutout of a girl reading that I'd cut out from a magazine. And I think the colors are so fun. I think the layering is so fun. And then I had gotten inspired to do some food writing. We had tried this new recipe for beer cheese soup, which was delicious, by the way. And I wanted to just really dive in and write what it was like cooking this just really cheesy, goopy soup and sitting down and eating it. It was a fun writing exercise to just write out all of that description and really put you back into the moment of when I was writing it. And that's something I want to do a bit more. Something that I intended to do more when I started this journal was to write about particular moments, to really dive in and write it almost like a memoir, even if it was on the surface really boring things that I was doing. So I want to get better at that. I want to write a bit more of those. Again, I have another pretty empty page. It was rainy. I know that because I put this little rainy Pooh Bear in there. Man, another blank page. And I do have some ideas of how I can fill some of this space. But again, I just wanted to show you what it was really like during this time. I don't want to paint any unrealistic expectations that all of my pages look like this by the end of the night. I do a lot of backfilling for especially the creative, more in-depth writing bits. Some nights I just have to put what I can on paper and move on. On this day, I was working on refinishing a cabinet, so I used this magazine illustration to denote that. And then this all ended up being my daily log. And then on this side, this is actually a wrapper from the silverware binding at a cafe. So I glued that in there, and then I came back and used this brown washi to kind of make those match a little better. These are just completely blank. I came in, dropped my daily journaling, and I was out. We have Thanksgiving. We went to visit my grandparents this year, and my grandma had given me this mixing bowl. So I cut out some of the packaging for that and slapped it in the journal. And then, of course, we have to have a turkey, a little Thanksgiving turkey. And then I used these colors to bounce off of to just do a little fun little word art title, and then just journaled about things that I'm thankful for. That's always something I like to journal about come Thanksgiving, just to observe it a little bit more than just eating turkey, which is good also, I will say. We're not very big shoppers, but we do like to wander around a little bit on Black Friday, just for fun. And we ended up getting my husband a new sweater, so I put that tag in here. And then I got started on putting up the Christmas decorations. So I have this wreath that I had cut out from an old magazine. And then we are at the end of November already. I had a bit of a sick day. I wasn't super sick. It was more just my head felt real weird. So I took some time to nap that off. But we did already have tickets to go see Wicked that night. So I braved through it. I promise I didn't cough or sneeze on anyone. I wrote a little bit about how I liked that. And then we have our December cover page. I loved using the Pooh Bear illustrations as my covers for all of the various seasons. Thought that turned out so fun. Got some little festive, wintry embellishments on here. And then on this day, I journaled a bit about the Christmas movies I had been watching. I had set a goal to watch a bunch of Christmas movies throughout December. I watched a few, not quite as many as I meant to, but there was this one that I watched that just transported me back in time to childhood Christmases, and it was so special. So I wanted to write about that and what I thought it was about it that made me feel so nostalgic. I've got my Spotify predictions because I'm one of those people. I love seeing what my Wrapped is at the end of the year, but I thought it'd be fun to write what I thought was going to be on it, which I'm glad that I did this early because this ended up being the day that Wrapped dropped. So I'm glad I got this in right before it all released. So I have a little radio to go with my music journaling, and then a girl reading to go with a book review. This was also the point of the year where I was panicking over trying to reach my Goodreads goal. So you will probably see several reviews of the books that I was wrapping up all at the end of the year. This tag is from my Christmas tree. It's supposed to have these little labels to label which order in which you assemble all of the branches, but I have found I really don't need them. And so I was like, you know what? This is going in my journal. So I glued that in there. And then my yucky head feeling had come back. So I literally just spent a whole page rambling and complaining about how nasty I felt. You know what? It felt good. Felt good to get that all out on paper. Had some friends over the weekend, so I had these little wintry girls that I had cut out from a magazine. And then I did a summary of my Spotify Wrapped. Now that it had come out way back here, but I had other things to write about. So I finally wrote about that. My top genres, top artists, top tracks. And then a little bonus, my listening age, it said was 67. So there you go. I'm not sure where it picked that up, but I guess if you listen to September 7 times throughout the year, you're officially 67. And then this page is where I finally broke out my watercolors. I have seen so many people watercolor in their Hobonichis, and I had meant to this whole year try it out, and I finally broke it out, and I think I might do some more of this to fill in some of the blank pages from earlier because this was so much fun. It does wrinkle the page up quite a bit, but that's kind of why I liked it. I love how crinkly it got. And this painting is actually just my view from the couch. I do a lot of my journaling just sitting on the couch, watching journaling YouTube videos right before bed. So I was just sitting there looking for something to paint, and I thought, you know what? This little Christmas tree we have set up by the couch would be perfect. And then this page is actually my other view from the couch. From my spot on the couch, I have just a little window into the guest bedroom. So I thought, you know what? I'm sitting here. I will go ahead and just draw out and paint my view of the bed from there. And then I had a really weird social encounter at the grocery store on this day, so I took that whole spot to just write out what a weird situation it was. And I'm kind of thinking I might fill in the title with the same color as the bedding over here just to kind of balance out the colors on that spread. I have some more just generic Christmas embellishments, a little season's greetings, and then Addie in her cute little Christmas dress. I love it. I have another book review of a book that I finished that day. Another book review of a book that I finished the next day. When I tell you I'm serious about my Goodreads goals, I am. I'll get to December and I'll be reading like a book a day just to try and reach my goal. But this weekend, we actually kind of got snowed in. So I put Samantha in her little cozy winter coat outfit, and then another magazine clipping of an article that I did not read. I just saw the little title, Let It Snow. I thought it was so cute. And then filled in my daily log down here. And then since I had this little extra box up here, I used this to kind of write what the current situation was. Current temperature, 2 degrees. So just a little snippet to give an idea of what the weather was like on that day. As we start getting closer to Christmas, I went out to dinner with a friend who has moved abroad, so I really only get to see her around Christmas time. So I put these 2 little girls from a magazine that kind of reminded me of us, and then just a little Christmas Pooh Bear situation over here. I still need to fill out some of that journaling space. I was starting to run out of Christmas and or just relevant ephemera by this point, and I had started digging through some of my like collage type supplies, and I found these old pictures from a trip to the museum when I was a kid. So I thought it would be fun to do cutouts of these pictures and get them out of my stash, get them onto a page. And I kind of loved this like word art I was able to do on this side. I need to figure out something else to do like that on this page because I liked how that turned out. I feel like I spend a lot of the time during this season trying to recapture the magic that Christmas had around this time frame. So I thought, you know what? This would be just a fun way to include that and bring back some of those memories as I'm celebrating this year. Yes. On this day, I had found an oversized chair on Facebook Marketplace for 20 bucks. And I was so excited. I said, please, I'm coming to get it. Let's go. We got there. We tried to load it into my trunk and it totally didn't fit. So we spent how long did we spend? Like 30 minutes tying it to the roof of my car so that we could bring it home. So that was a bit of an adventure. It looks absolutely nothing like this. This was just cut out from a catalog that I had saved, but I thought it was a funky chair. I liked this chair, so I thought that would be kind of a good reminder of the day of the fateful chair. So I threw that in there, some other little bits and bobs that kind of match the color scheme on there. I loved the yellow with the red of the December Hobonichi dates. Thought that was fun. And then again, as we're getting closer and closer to Christmas, more and more just kind of generic Christmas bits and bobs. Mostly just trying to clear out some old stuff from my stash. But I liked how these all kind of went together. We have another book review, shocker. And then we move into our Christmas celebrations. I saved a few of the tags from the gifts I received. I thought that would be a fun little thing to include to remember some of the gift giving from this season. This is just a bit of wrapping paper from something I got. And then another magazine cutout of this Christmassy church setup. And then I love this page. I love how this turned out. A very simple layout with just some Christmas themed stickers, another gift tag from exchanging gifts with family. This one was a bit special because it was the name announcement for our new nephew, so that was exciting. And then I filled in the journaling section, this kind of miscellaneous section, with a summary of our gift exchange, all about the gifts that I received on Christmas morning and then the gifts that I gave on Christmas morning. And then that stretched all the way over onto this page. And then here comes all of the ephemera of the things I got for Christmas. Carson had gotten me the Tamagotchi stamps and sticky notes from Hobonichi, which was very exciting. So I stuck some of those little sticky notes down. I need to put some sort of quote or highlight or something in these little bubbles, but I put those on with the packaging. Love that. I love my little Tamagotchi spread. And then things are starting to quiet down toward the end of the year. I glued down the tag off of the packaging of my Hobonichi Weeks cover. I finally glued down, this was my favorite illustration from all of the Pooh Bear stuff that I have. It's just such a cozy little scene, and I really wanted to give it a place of honor, but then I realized it wouldn't fit into my new journal, and I was like, okay, I just have to use it. I have to use up the good stuff. So I went ahead and stuck that on that page because it was a pretty cozy day. And then we get to the end of the year. I started this little thank you note to 2025. You'll see I only got about half of it done. We'll see if I come back to that. And then on these blank pages that follow up the daily pages, I figured I would put in my reading for the year. I just used my regular printer to cut out all of the covers. I still have a few more that need to be printed out, but I wanted to go ahead and get started on adding in the covers and then giving them all a little star rating. And then I think that's pretty much it. Oh, I did do the favorites page, put in some of my favorite games, books, songs, just general things for the year. I have a couple more that I need to fill out. I'll have to think about that. But there's kind of the overview of my Hobonichi. Like I said, I will probably come back in, fill out at least a few more of these blank pages, and then post a full flip through, because I know there are even some older pages that have changed since I showed them on the channel. But for now, this is what it looks like as I finish out this year. So let's talk pros and cons. was it worth it to get a Hobonichi this year? This is my very first Hobonichi book. So I was curious to see. I was curious to see what all the hype was about. And I have some thoughts, I think, on whether it's worth it. So a few of the pros. Number one, this paper. I love this paper. I feel like it encouraged me to write more because I discovered I love thin paper. If you like thin paper, if you like crinkly pages, this is a good option. I really loved it, and I love the very, very faint grid. I like the way it looks. I like the way it functions. I had a lot of fun with it. If you're someone who likes very clean, thick, sturdy pages, this might not be for you because these pages are very crinkly, they can get very worn very quickly. Another pro that I would add is the dated pages. I feel like having a page a day really helped keep me accountable to make sure I always came back and journaled that day, because otherwise there'd be a blank page. And my brain does not like that. I don't like to break a streak. I don't like to see blank space that I've left in a place where I had a goal to fill it out. So I feel like that's a pro. To some people, that might be a con. So if you're somebody who alternates between like not writing a whole lot on one day, but then on another day you need to like write out 10 pages, this might not be the best option because you are kind of stuck in a page a day. For me, it was more than enough, especially because I do a lot of my more creative writing in other books. So if I'm writing more than what fits on this page, that's abnormal. If you are just jumping in to Hobonichi books and you're not sure which one to get, not sure how much you're gonna write, I would recommend starting with the smaller size rather than the cousin. I feel like I'm someone who writes quite a bit, but then having to fill out a page of this size every single day, it got to be a lot. It got to be overwhelming. I fell behind. And you can define whether behind is real or not, but for somebody who made it a goal to fill out all of these pages, I did feel like I was falling behind sometimes. And then another con that I would throw out there is the price, because this is just the 6-month Avec, so it wasn't quite as pricey. But if I wanted to buy a full Hobonichi Cousin, that would be a bit difficult of a price to swallow, especially as you're moving into the holiday season. You might be budgeting for buying a lot of things right around the end of the year. That's a kind of an expensive book. That said, if you're thinking about moving into Hobonichi, the Cousin is far from your only option. They also sell the smaller version, which is a little cheaper. And then this year I am working in a Hobonichi Weeks. Still Hobonichi, but much, much smaller and cheaper. A lot thinner too. I can show you. This is with bulking it up already with stickers a little bit. So they're very thin, very, very much more approachable if you're thinking you don't have a whole lot to say quite yet. Now I am using two so that I can have one as a journal and one as a planner, but that's obviously not something that you need to do. Now let me add a bit of a disclaimer. If you are thinking about starting journaling, or even if you have been journaling for a long time, you don't need to buy a fancy journal. You just don't. My very first journals were absolutely free. This is one of my very first journals, and it is written in a freebie company notebook that I just had laying around, and it is one of my most treasured possessions. Because I journaled so earnestly, it covers a lot of middle school. It has a lot of creative writing and drawing in it. I had some little friendship bracelets that I tied to it. It's got all sorts of different things that I tucked into the pages. And this was just This was just a freebie book. And I have been journaling regularly for about 10 years now. I did not specially buy a notebook for my journaling until I think 2 years ago-ish, just because I started wanting to experiment with something more. Other than that, I have spent years just using whatever notebooks are on hand. I wasn't buying fancy stickers. Even now, I very rarely buy fancy stickers. This is all just junk and stuff that I've had laying around, or my own drawings. So do not feel the pressure to buy a $60 or $70 notebook, whether you're an experienced journaler or not. For me, a lot of the determining factor of whether it's worth it or not to buy a nice fancy notebook, one is whether you think you will use it, that it will help you journal more, or journal more closely in alignment with the way that you want to journal. I personally know that I love to have a daily log to look back on, so investing in a journal that would push me to write on the daily was worthwhile. I also knew that I would stay committed to it because I have many, many years of journaling under my belt as evidence that I am going to keep up with it, at least as best as I can. And I am finally in a financial place where I feel like I can treat myself a little bit. But I have spent years using notebooks that I already had laying around, even if they weren't the cutest. If you don't happen to have any notebooks laying around, they're very easy to find for even just $1 or $2 at, the grocery store office section or at the thrift store. So just putting things back into perspective, if you're thinking about buying a Hobonichi, if you think it is a tool that is going to help you and that you'll enjoy using and that you have the money at your disposal to spend on it, I would say go for it. I certainly do not regret using this book. I really enjoyed it. I obviously decided not to get another one for the time being, but I did. I liked this book a lot. So with all of that said, I would say for me, it was worthwhile. I am very glad that I took the plunge and wrote in this book for a whole 6 months of my life. Hopefully I will be back pretty soon to show you kind of a final flip through of what this book looks like before I fully archive it. But hopefully that gives you a bit of an overview of what the end of the year looked like for me in this journal. If you're interested to see what my 2026 books look like, I already have a video posted of setting these up, and I have even more videos coming up that will dive further into what that system will look like. But for now, we are saying goodbye to this beautiful, beautiful notebook. I'm so glad to have spent all this time with her. Thanks for hanging out with me here today. Hopefully this gave you some inspiration, maybe some guidance on what you'd like your journal system to look like in the coming year. And with that, I will wish you happy journaling, and I will leave you to it. Love you guys, and I will see you next time.